Now if we have a look at the add to errors method inside of the validation class, first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to assign the null to the key property, and then we create another one, value equals null. And what we first going to check here is if is an empty key, then I'm going to move this line here. We assigning obviously the key to the errors. We put in, this key into the errors array, and then we check if is an empty value, then else if array key exists, and we're looking for key inside of this message array. And in the if is an empty value, what we're going to do is this underscore errors messages, we create a valid underscore and then the key index, and we simply using this wrap warn for wrap warning and the value, the message basically. And then this underscore errors, actually let's just copy this message here. Then we have this error message is valid underscore key equals wrap warn, and rather than value this time, we're going to do this message key. What this does basically is we're checking if we want to assign specific validation message overwriting the one which is inside of the message array. Obviously we can do it now, because obviously if we, let's say, have a specific form which requires slightly different message for the same field name, then we can just pass it as a second parameter, and we're checking here obviously if this value isn't empty, then we simply use it. Otherwise we're checking if obviously this key is inside of the message array, and then using this to obviously create a validation message. Another thing, if we scroll down a little bit, down to the check method, here we have empty value. Obviously 0 would qualify for an empty value, but we don't want this to happen because sometimes 0 is a required, is the value, is completely valid value obviously. So what we're going to be using here is our empty method from inside of the helper class. So helper is empty. And now obviously if we pass 0 as the value, that's going to validate, and it's obviously this statement will return false, so this add to errors will not be executed. Now if we also scroll down to the isValid method, and here what we're going to do is basically pass the array as parameter. By default it's going to be null, and what we're going to do here before this process method, calling this process method, we check if is an empty array, then this underscore post equals array. Again, same situation as previously. We may want to collect the values first without obviously submitting the form or anything like this, and just pass them to the isValid to check if they are all obviously validating correctly. So that gives us obviously this extra flexibility here.